Hey guys, it's Damien here, and I haven't done my brakes in 3 years, which is a very long time because you're supposed to do this every year for your Tesla. Now, I will go through everything that the manual requires you to do, but in a very short, compact video. We'll also go over all the tools and equipment I use to be able to perform this brake maintenance so that it is very quick and easy for you to do. And what better way to start than washing your Tesla? Now, the absolute first thing that must happen is to put something behind those tires because once we go into service mode, your car will become free rolling when we retract those pistons on your calipers. Under software, press and hold the model that you have, type in the word service for the password to get into service mode. Press enter, enter again, hit chassis, brakes, and then EPB service. Hit run to get started, then press down your right turn signal and brake pedal for 8 seconds for a confirmation window to pop up saying that you want to get into EPP service. Hit that, and then that's when your brakes will start to retract, the pistons in specifically. Now you're all set. This is not mentioned in the manual, but for safety precautions, I do disconnect the 12-volt battery as well as the high voltage battery. Use a 21mm socket to loosen up your wheels before jacking up your car. Now let's start with the rear brakes. Now for a quick check, I'll rotate the rotor and we're all set. There are some areas you need to focus on. There is a hex bolt underneath this cap. If you do plan on disconnecting the parking motor, the connector on the backside is located here. I didn't disconnect it for my purposes, but if you plan on it, that's where it's at. And then a second hex bolt on the bottom side. The top bolt is a 6mm and the bottom is an 8. Now when you're ready to put this together, the torque specs are on top. Now this is what it looks like when you ignore your brakes for multiple years at a time. This is the first time I'm doing my brakes all on my own, so there's definitely a lot of lessons learned here. Now here are my brake pads. They're pretty bad. It mentions in the manual to use soapy water, but I just used a nylon brush with soapy water across my brake pads and the caliper. Before putting your brake pads back, make sure you use a piston spreader to be able to retract your piston. I use Royal Purple Ultra Performance grease for my brake pads as well as my caliper. Unfortunately, I did miss this step thinking I was reducing the vibration and corrosion of these brakes. Now when following the manual, do not apply grease on the backside of your brake pads. When you're ready, put this brake pad back into the caliper without touching the internal surface of the brake pad. Here's another just in case moment that I did not see in the manual when I put grease on the piston itself. For the other brake pad, you definitely want to put grease on these metal clips as well as the sidewalls of the brake pad. For your second brake pad, you want to make sure after greasing you want to put the brake pad facing up against the disc and the backside facing outward. I didn't see anything specified in the manual, but I did put grease on the inner lining of the rubber cap that covers the 6mm bolts. When you're done, put the caliper back on the disc and torque it to spec. Now it's time to get started on the front caliper and to rotate the rotor to make sure it's free spinning. There are two Torx bolts that you have to focus on. When you're ready to put this back together, the torque specs are on top, but they both use an E18 bolt. The manual does mention to replace both of these bolts, but I did not. The front calipers were by far the worst looking calipers, and after this, I'm definitely not missing brake maintenance ever again. I used the same method by using the nylon brush and soapy water to clean all this off. This was definitely a massive nightmare to clean all this off, so make sure you do this once a year. And don't forget to use your brake tool to separate the pistons in your caliper. I'll be using the Ultra Performance grease again on the front side, and make sure to put the grease on the sides of your brake pads as well as the internal parts of your caliper. Now you can put your Torx bolts back on to torque them down to 69 foot-pounds, and then you're all set. If you took the same steps I did and you're done, plug in your 12-volt battery as well as your high voltage battery. And lastly, you could hit the parking brake button to exit service mode. This is where all your pistons and all your calipers will move back to their original places. Hopefully you found this video helpful and learned all the mistakes that I made that you won't have to make on your own car. Next year, I'll definitely do a much more in-depth video on every step you need to take. And definitely do not ignore doing brake maintenance on your Tesla vehicle. And as always, if you guys like this type of content, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.